All right, nobody better. No better opinions, nobody better to voice it right here than two-time Super Bowl champion Bryant McFadden joining us, CBS Sports All Things Covered podcast. BMac is our guy, and he's on the Fan Morning Show right now. Bryant, a very good morning to you. How you doing?
It's a great day to be alive. Let's take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right about that. Okay, hard one right out of the gate. Hi, hard one. You ready for it? Here we go.
I'm ready.
We're getting all these texts. People talk here in Pittsburgh. Is Ben Roethlisberger washed up or not? Yes or no?
He's closer to the end of his career than the beginning. I'm not going to sit here and say he's washed up, because if you're washed up, the chances of you doing anything productive in the National Football League are not likely. I think he still can do some pretty good things. Now, can he win you ball games like he used to be able to do? No, he's not on that same level right now, but I don't say he's washed up. He's a serviceable quarterback, and we've seen many serviceable quarterbacks get to a point of being able to be a playoff-like contender, but you have to have the support, and I don't think he's the player that he once was that can just win ball games by himself.
Can Matt Canada's offense, though, BMac, work with Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback?
I mean, it better work. I mean, what we've seen so far in 3 ball games have really been inconsistent play. And it's almost like, both sides, they're trying to figure each other out. The coach is trying to figure the players out, and the player at the quarterback position, and vice versa with the quarterback and the rest of the guys on the offensive end. They seem to be so unfamiliar with each other. They don't even – the identity offensively has yet to be established, and those are the growing pains they're currently going through, along with some players individually speaking needing to really up their ante and do a better job than what they're supposed to do.
Who's that, the offensive line, BMac?
I mean, when you look at the offensive line, as a group, yes, they have to play better. Remember, that was the biggest concern going into this season was the offensive line play because of what happened last year. And then when you look at all the new additions to the offensive line. So that was the biggest concern, and they have yet to answer any of those questions regarding their play, because the offensive line guys, listen, it's like the transmission in a car. If you don't have a good transmission, I don't care what else is right in that car, it's not going to run properly. And that has been the case so far with the offense. The offensive line, the transmission is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and because of that, you can't get in the car and do a road trip.
How do you attempt to explain, Bryant, Ben not even attempting passes beyond 10 yards down the middle of the field? Is it because of that offensive line not giving him time? Is it because the routes aren't in the playbook written to go to that part of the field? Is it because the receivers aren't getting open? What is it?
It could be a combination of many different things. It could be a combination of everything you talked about. But I think I look at it like this, right? If you had a sibling, an older brother, every time you walked into the kitchen, he's hitting you. Like he's smacking you in the head, smacking you in the chest. Sometimes when you walk in the kitchen and he's there, you might flinch before he even swing at you because you're so used to getting hit. Ben right now is getting hit a lot. I mean, against the Raiders guys, he got hit 10 times. He got hit 10 times in 4 quarters. So I think it could be a situation where Ben is not really trusting the offensive line to give him the time to take shots down the football field. It could be a combination of wide receivers not creating separation or just the entire flow of the offense. You know what I mean? So it could be a combination of both things. But I can tell you this much. Any quarterback that gets hit 10 times, they're going to be flinching.
Bryant McFadden joining us here, Fan Morning Show. Now, I know that you say you're Steeler for life, and you think about all of that locker room and that camaraderie, and it's a much different locker room now. And I think about Cam Hayward being kind of a throwback and a guy that fit in with you guys, right, that could walk right into your locker room. How do you think a guy like Cam Hayward takes to Tyler Boyd publicly calling the Steelers quitters?
I got to be personal. Hey, you guys remember in 2005 when we lost to the Cincinnati Bengals the second time we played them in Heinz Field, and T.J. Houshmandzadeh, rubbed his cleats with the terrible towel? That did something to us. You know what I mean? That really got us fired up because we felt some type of way. They don't like us, we don't like them, but that was highly disrespectful. And the next time we played them in the playoffs, we did what we were supposed to do. You know what I mean? And we remember that, and Coach Cowher actually showed us that clip the night of the game against Cincinnati in the hotel, and that took us to a whole nother level. So me personally hearing the comments from Tyler Boyd, granted, they won the ball game, so he feels like, he has a opportunity to say some pretty good things, I guess negative things regarding the organization. But everybody in that locker room need to understand and remember those quotes from Tyler Boyd. He felt like they quit on them, and he felt it was okay to put that in the public. Not even paying attention or being mindful that they have to play the Steelers again. So it has to be a personal, a personal issue for everybody in the locker room. Because one thing we can say, the only way things get corrected in the locker room with the Pittsburgh Steelers, every individual got to look themselves in the mirror and say, I need to do a better job.
Former Steelers corner, he's with CBS Sports. He's got the All Things Covered podcast as well. Bryant McFadden with us on the Fan Morning Show. Why is it, in your opinion, Bryant, that Mike Tomlin doesn't have a more wide swathing coaching tree given his level of success?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I think I can give a few assumptions, and assuming it's never good. But when you look at some of the coaches that have been under Mike T, a guy like Keith Butler, who's been around the game for a long, long time before he actually became a DC. Was his aspirations ever to be a head coach? I don't know. I think he's really happy in the situation. He's a Pittsburgher for life. Some of the other coaches, you know what I mean? Were there goals to be a head coach? I don't know. I think some of these other new flashes that are in the NFL, most NFL coaches are coming from offensive-minded guys nowadays. You know what I mean? And when you look at Pittsburgh's offense, it hasn't really been that consistent, explosive offense like some of the other offenses that we see in the National Football League. So that could play a little part.
Now, they haven't been able to run the football very well. What do you do when you can't run the football well? Do you keep trying? Do you throw swing passes to Najee Harris like they've been doing? What is the remedy to running the football better?
You got to get creative. Number one, you can't be predictable. Number one, the front gotta win their one-on-one battles. The offensive line guys, right? They gotta win their battles. And then number two, you gotta get creative. And what we're seeing right now is not a lot of creativity in the running game. When you look at running games that are very, very successful, they're creative. They're lining up under center a lot, giving these running backs a downhill momentum, motion to come at the line of scrimmage. That open the play-action game up. So I think the creativity is something that has been a big lapse. But also, too, guys, remember, it was a shortened preseason, and we really didn't see the entire offense involved in the preseason. So that's why I said earlier the chemistry clearly is not there yet. Both sides, they're still trying to figure each other out about who does what well and when we should attack those things.
How are they going to generate a pass rush if T.J. Watt continues to have to sit out with that hamstring injury?
Wow, that's like T.J. Watt not having a 100% healthy Highsmith. I mean, listen, that's a tall task to ask when you don't have one of your best pass rushers. One of the best pass rushers in the game, who makes everybody else's life easier in the lineup. It's going to be tough. So if TJ is not there, playing against Aaron Rodgers, that's not the matchup you want where you might not be able to get a consistent pass rush. So the best way you can try to generate some type of pass rush, you got to get aggressive. You got to send more hats than they can protect and hope for the guys in the back end to be able to stand up.
Before we let you go, I have to ask, last question for you, BMac. This is the first time we've talked to you since Coach Bowden passed away. Back at MacArthur High School or growing up in Hollywood, whether he came to your school or whether he came to your house, and then it cultivated a relationship. What did meeting that man and eventually playing for him do for your life?
Man, listen, when I met Coach Bowden, when he came to my house and word got out for the home visit at my school that he was coming, number one, my principal, guidance counselor, teachers, they all sent memorabilia for me to get him to sign because he was that type of figure, you know what I mean? And before we got into the home visit, man, he actually did a 30-minute autograph signing of signing different pieces that people sent home with me for him to sign, and he was okay in doing that. But and a legend, a living legend at that time, very, very humble, personable, high character guy, a guy who put religion first, family second, and then football last, and he emphasized those things. So just being able to learn from him, play for him, something I would never forget. I've learned a lot from him, and I'm just happy. That was one of the main reasons why I went to Florida State. Bobby Bowden, man.
BMac, you're the best. We appreciate it. All Things Covered podcast. As always, it's so great. Catch you on CBS Sports as well. We'll catch up again soon, BMac.
Thank you for having me.
All right,
Thanks, Brian.
just the best. The best. I'll tell you, that's it, to think of that locker room. And look, words are words, and what Tyler Boyd said is what Tyler Boyd said. But to hear him say how they rallied around, and as a much more talented football team,
Right.
But TJ Houshmandzadeh did that. Okay, we're not letting it go.
Right.
I don't know if this team, whether they try to take those words and turn them into something, if they're talented enough to do it. But to hear a football player that's been in that locker room saying, no, you don't just let that go, because he could have thought that, but he didn't have to disseminate it publicly.
Right.
That's the second step to Boyd.
And they can turn it into something if they want to. And I think it's a great point Bryant made that you still got to play the Steelers one more time, Tyler. You may want to reconsider this before you put them on blast a little bit for giving up the way they did. And they did give up. That's an accurate assessment, but you don't have to put it out there.